We stopped checking for monsters under the bed when we realized they were inside of us. Stephen King. Native Americans have given us quite a few creatures of myth and lore to make us afraid of the forest and the shadows they hold. Their legends of Stick Indians is no exception to the terror. Stick Indian lore originated from the tribes of the northwestern part of the United States. From the tribes known as Salish, Cayuse, and the Yakama, while the specific details may vary between the different tribes. The general consensus is that the Stick Indians are malicious and dangerous creatures. Stick Indians have various different names including Stick People, Stick Figures, and Stick Men. These are of course the English names. According to some sources, their true name is Sweet Yee-Ha-Ma, which roughly translates to spirit hiding under the cover of wood, but some believe that to call them by their true name in public is enough to warrant an attack from them. According to the Salish tribe, Stick Indians are large, hairy, and Bigfoot-like creatures, but to the Cayuse and Yakama tribes Stick Indians are small and more dwarf-like. In some legends Stick Indians eat people who unfortunately come across their path or they kidnap children and women. They are also known to take aggressive actions against people who disrespect them, no matter if it was unintentional. Stick Indians are believed to have supernatural abilities which includes hypnotizing and or paralyzing their victims. They are also known to cause episodes of insanity. However, sometimes all they need to do to lure people astray to their trap at night is to lead them with eerie whistling or laughter, sometimes to appease the Stick Indians or at least sway them from taking a loved one. When people hear the eerie whistles coming from the forest at night, they will put a food offering of meat outside their doors. This was done in hopes that the Stick Indian would take that instead of a person from within the home. They knew the offering was accepted if the food was gone in the morning and everyone was still alive and well. There are several stories about Stick Indians, including modern-day sightings. Most of the time they are seen by hunters or lone travelers who have wandered away from the trail and into the woods. Usually the sightings are at night, as Stick Indians are widely believed to be nocturnal, but there have been a few sightings during the day as well. One of the more popular stories of Stick Indians is as follows. An author recalls some of the things her grandmother told her about Stick Indians and her encounter with the strange beings. Her grandmother is a member of the Okanagan in Canada, and she warned the author of superstitions such as not whistling at night because you will attract the Stick Indians. The author continues with the story explaining some of the things her family has experienced when they would go out hunting. They claimed to hear strange noises trying to lure them away, screeching noises, laughter, and of course whistling. Despite all of this, for her 18th birthday the author went camping with her friends. They all went to a beautiful spot in the state of Washington. After she and her friends set the tent and the rest of camp, they sat around the campfire. Her friends wanted the author to tell them about the Stick Indians, though as mentioned earlier in this post, it is taboo to talk about them in the open for risk of attracting them to you. Despite the ominous feeling, she told the origin story of the Stick Indians. The following is directly copied from Little Miss Bite Me's Reddit post. Well, they say that it was once a normal tribe, you know. They were tall, dark, with cascading black hair. They weren't always bad, but one day, in the fall, it started snowing early, and it didn't stop. The people there ran out of food, having not expected the long winter ahead of them, and before long, they were starving. Their hair started falling out, and what was left hung long and stringy. Their faces grew gaunt and pale, their throats grew dry and their voices turned hoarse, until they sounded like shrill screeches when they tried to talk. Their nails turned brittle. Their skin tightened on their frames until they were thin like sticks. The chief needed to feed his people, but there was no food to feed them. The deer were gone, the rabbits scarce, the birds had long flew south. Their neighbors refused to share their own dwindling food supply. There was no other option. They came at night. They crept into the woods, towards the nearest tribe. They followed the sounds of whistling to the camp, and they attacked. The screaming filled the air, echoing in the valley for miles. The Stick Indians were ruthless, slicing open skin with nails sharpened by hunger, tearing mouthfuls of flesh with hungry teeth. Once repulsed by the thought, they couldn't stop devouring the first fresh meat they'd tasted in months. It was delectable, sweet blood pouring from their mouths that they licked off the dirt, not willing to let the soil have what they so badly desired. When the sun rose, the Stick Indians felt, for the first time, full. They slept, no longer kept awake by the dull prongs of hunger. At night, they awoke to the sounds of whistling. They went to them, pricks of hunger icking their feet faster. Little Miss Bite Me. After she told the story, her friends thought it would be fun to play hide-go-seek in the woods around them. Not wanting to be left out, she joined in on the fun. Unfortunately, this eventually led her into a situation with a male friend who did not have good intentions for her. However, mid-attack, something happened. Little Miss Bite Me wrote it better than I could ever summarize. Caleb's weight suddenly lifted, and I scrambled away, clutching fistfuls of twigs and dirt in my efforts to get away, and turned around to look behind me at the gurgling screeches. It was black with dirt, long and lanky, crouched over Caleb. Its strength was apparent in its effortless way of holding down the muscular boy flailing beneath it. I couldn't see its face, hidden under a curtain of matted hair, encrusted with bugs and bits of tree. But here, oh, I could hear every bit of it. Every slurp, every painful shred of flesh pulled free from the bones was apparent. I froze in sick fascination, held witness to every second of it while Caleb's screams died in his throat, while he finished his meal. When he was done, he turned his head to me. His face was long and thin and hollow. I could see every bone in his skull, the black, bloodshot eyes sunk deep. His lips were thin and drawn back, revealing long, gray teeth stained with blood and chunks of meat. I couldn't tear my eyes away from him. Not even when he started crawling towards me. Stupidly, I thought of Tarzan walking towards Jane. How he put his weight forward on his hands and kind of hopped his long legs underneath him. He stopped inches from me, head tilted to the left. He lowered his face to mine, until I could smell the rancid breath coming from his mouth. He leaned forward, arching his face up as he took a long sniff of me. He never stopped looking at me, his eyes locked into mine. He looked up at the sound of footsteps crashing towards us. He stood, taller than anyone I'd ever seen before and ever seen since. Looking down at me, he nodded, turning and disappearing into the woods. He whistled as he strode away. Little Miss Bite Me. Whether or not this is a true story can easily be put up for debate, but there are several other encounters with the Stick Indians that have been reported.